Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is I'm Just Saying with Justin Werley, and we have Ned Hesser on the show today. I gotta be honest with you, I didn't know how this interview would go. I didn't know how this conversation would go. He's a very religious person. He was brought up, in my opinion, in a different environment than me. He was brought up homeschooled and kind of led in a different direction in his life, but throughout the conversation we kind of discussed the differences that we had, and I'll be honest with you, it was an interesting conversation. He is he's a great guy. He's an interesting person. I learned a lot from the guy. He had the balls to go out and do a lot of things that I don't have the balls to go out and do, from working on a freaking salmon boat to going on all these religious missions, and he's a very interesting guy, and I hope you enjoy the podcast. Ned Hesser, he also is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu white belt. He is at a gym called MMA Academy, Pierra, I hope I'm saying that correctly, Pierra MMA out of Reading, Pennsylvania. And I hope you guys enjoy the show, and this is the new show. Before I get too far into it, this is the new show. It used to be the Inside Joke with Justin and Gene. That kind of ran its course. Hopefully we'll have Gene Troy on the show at some point in time to discuss all that. He was supposed to come over this weekend. Things happen. The guy had car problems. You know, I understand. Things happen. But eventually we're going to have him on. But in the meantime, Ned Hesser is going to be on the show today. And following up with that, we have a very important guest in David Fine from the Reading Royals. He graced me with his presence, and you'll get that next week. So, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for listening. You one person out there that's probably listening to this. Anyway, this is I'm Just Saying with Justin Werley.
I'm just saying, don't get upset. Let's get to the bottom of it. I'm just saying, don't you take it personally. I'm just saying, don't get upset. Let's get to the bottom of it. I'm just saying, don't you take it personally.
What's going on? I'm here with Ned Hesser from MMA Academy. Is that the full name of it, or is it?
Yeah.
So there's a couple different banners on the website.
There's a few different that you'll find, but MMA Academy I think is the official name of the business. But depending on like what circumstance we're in, like if we're at a actual MMA fight, they'll probably refer to it as like Pierra MMA.
Pierra, okay.
Or if we're at a jiu-jitsu tournament, like they might just talk about it as like Pierra's school or something like that. But MMA Academy I think is like the name of the LLC.
Okay, and how long have you been involved with those guys?
About a year, I'd say. I did Muay Thai in college for a little bit, and then I got into jiu-jitsu sort of independently of that. And so I found a place that did both of them, and so that's.
So they do Muay Thai there as well.
Yeah, we do Muay Thai. We do Brazilian jiu-jitsu. We supplement some of our grappling with judo throws and takedowns, and some of our ground game with like Greco-Roman style wrestling. And some of our striking is also supplemented by Western boxing.
Okay.
Muay Thai and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu are the two main disciplines.
All right, I'm going to bug you. You need to move in.
Okay.
That's all right. That's all good. It's just I'm watching this thing, and I'm loud as hell.
Gotcha.
And then you're this. All right. All right, well, let's learn a little bit about you. You were homeschooled, which is a kind of controversial thing a little bit to me, because I went to a public school. I was with all the trash that entails. Do you think, well, first of all, what's it like being homeschooled? Because I wasn't homeschooled unless I was suspended. So
it's interesting because I do get that question a lot from people. It's like, what was it like to be homeschooled? And I usually give the really unhelpful response of like, well, what was it like to be public schooled? But it's I mean, my simple response is like I don't know because I don't have anything to like contrast it to. It was just kind of like it was the thing we did.
Well, so your mom, who was your primary teacher at home?
My primary teacher was my mom, but she used kind of a philosophy of education called like the Charlotte Mason method, which focuses a lot on kind of like helping students direct their own curriculum. So it's interesting because like, so for example, like when I was in middle school, I was really into planes.
Okay.
So my mom found a way to incorporate like history, like I learned about World War II and the development of different kinds of aircraft as it kind of followed the conflict that was happening in Europe and how that contrasted with like the Luftwaffe and the German Air Force. And through that, I kind of learned about this whole time in Europe of, massive change that society was experiencing. I also learned about, through science, I would learn about like, lift and different weather patterns and different types of engines. And for literature, I would read books like The House of the 70 Fathers, which is about the flying tigers, or I would read poetry like I Have Slipped the Surly Bonds. All stuff that's related to aircraft, to planes, and so she would use kind of our own interest in the things that we were naturally curious about to sort of just direct us to teach ourselves.
Okay.
So
that
it's
actually
not
sounds
universally true about original schools, but
right. That sounds way more effective than, hey, kid, sit down and I'm forcing you to learn this.
it worked for us.
Yeah.
For us, it was a good method.
Now you say us. How many siblings did you have?
I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters.
Okay.
We're all homeschooled.
Wow, big house.
Yeah.
Crowded house.
We were a little spaced out, so it helped a little bit, but.
Okay, and are you the youngest or?
I'm the second youngest. Yeah.
Okay. So, well, that takes away some conflict of having your sister be in the same school as you and having to deal with all that. Your sisters.
I mean, I did have a sister that we had some conflicts, but she's okay.
Gotcha. So you're from Chicago.
Yeah.
Obviously, well, I mean, I'm just assuming because I've never been to Chicago, but different than Pennsylvania.
A little bit. The irony is actually I was born in Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay. So where were you born in Pennsylvania?
Erie, Oil City, that kind of area.
Erie. Oh my God.
Yeah.
That really went down. That went downhill. I was at a wedding, a Baptist wedding in. By the way, Baptist weddings are the most fun things I've ever been at in my life.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm not religious, and I've done my research on you. I know you are very religious, or assume you're very religious.
You can say that.
And I for a guy that stopped going to church after he got confirmed because that's all I had to do. Mm-hmm. You know, I haven't really been back unless it's been a wedding, and I dread them. I hate weddings. I hate sitting there listening to all that stuff, and I was just like, okay, we're all gonna go away from this and get trashed. So what are we doing? This is all kind of just a show, in my opinion. And but the Baptist wedding, I think if I grew up Baptist, I'd be a complete outcast because we look a little different. But it would be the most fun I've ever had. They're singing songs. There's live, like they're playing guitar and drums, and clapping. The wedding went by like that. I just snapped my fingers because nobody can see that. And I don't know. That was a tangent there. But Baptist church services and everything, to me, just make you want to go, make you want to be part of it. And I guess that's kind of what they do. You know, the environment is exciting, and then you'll learn as you go. But the hardest part that I found was wanting to go in the first place.
I gotcha.
But anyway, we'll get to more of the religious stuff in a little bit.
If you don't mind me asking, you said you were confirmed. What were you like?
I went to Salem UCC.
Okay.
So Christianity, kind of thing. All right. So I stalked your Facebook for my research here, and I don't know that it is in any particular order, and I don't know how to say the community college you attended.
Kankakee.
There you go.
Kankakee. It's a very far south suburb of Chicago. I tell people Chicago just because it's easier than explaining the weird geography of my state, but if you actually saw the place I grew up, you probably laugh to think of that as Chicago, but there's a number of people that kind of commute from.
Yeah. See, you just can't shake it, can you?
Right, yeah. They commute from Kankakee to the city two work, and so after like a certain number of people do that, it becomes considered a suburb of Chicago.
Okay.
And so my neighborhood was like a little tiny town that's sort of a offshoot of Kankakee, so it's easier than explaining to people that like I live in a suburb of a city, that I'm
Right.
not actually part of the municipality of the city. Like we have our own police department, but we're sort of technically Chicago, but not really. It's just
Sure. Gets complicated.
it does, yeah, yeah.
So now that was, and again, complete assumption. That is a standard college, community college atmosphere.
Yeah, you could say that.
And this is the first time
Mm-hmm.
you're having to be in a school and an educational environment that is not run by family.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how did that transition? How was that transition?
Well, I got into the Honor Society my first semester, so I think academically the transition worked out pretty well. I did find like a lot of the kind of methods that my mom used to teach us were helpful. I think they actually translated better to and this is not to disparage like public school students. Like if that's the model that works for you, go for it. But I did find that for me at least, it helped translate better to a college environment where you have to actually go do stuff more out on your own.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're the one that has to go to the library and set up your computer and do some Googling and pull some books out and do some research and write something. My mom also placed a really big emphasis on reading and writing, which was helpful because college tends to be more book heavy, if that makes sense.
No, yeah.
So I thought it worked out pretty well.
So,
I enjoyed it.
what about the social aspect of it? Because that's what to me, that's what I guess the criticism would be of homeschool versus public school.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, if it was up to me, if it was ask my opinion, private school would probably be the best place as far as academics and mixing in the social aspect of it. But I mean, when you were homeschooled, I guess I'm asking, how did you make friends outside of the family? Because that's where, you know, in public school, that's where you made and met all your friends that you're going to have for a little while anyway. But I mean, it's not like you can go drive a car when you're 10 and go meet and go. You can,
Well,
it won't
you
go
shouldn't
well.
drive a car when
Sure,
you're 10.
absolutely. So I mean, how do you go about doing that?
Well, I mean, we were pretty active. We were involved in 4-H. We were involved in Boy Scouts. I am an Eagle Scout, and those provided a lot of avenues to make friends. And actually, it's interesting because those were our main avenues to meet people. We tended actually to gravitate toward better, deeper friendships. I found. And again, this is not to disparage
No,
people
of course
who
not.
choose public school or private school, but I mean, to me, everybody kind of has a model that works well for them and for their family. Every child's different, but at least for me, I think I found the friendships I formed were a lot deeper and were a lot more fulfilling
Okay.
than had I just kind of like met people by happenstance. Like I kind of had to go intentionally seek out, like, you seem like an interesting person, or you're a fun person to be around, and that was largely through scouting or through 4-H or any number of the other programs that we were involved in. We were also part of a homeschool co-op organization.
Okay, what's that?
So it's kind of like periodically, and there's actually one in Reading that I now teach at, but it's sort of informal organizations where families that homeschool will get together periodically and they'll do classes together, and it kind of provides you like a deeper community of other people who kind of have a similar lifestyle to the one you have.
Just the interaction in general has got to be good.
Yeah.
Because I sit there and I think, I mean, I coached wrestling for 13 years. I think I've only had one kid that was homeschooled.
Yeah.
And I guess it just works out sport-wise. You go to that school district you live in to play any sports. I'm assuming.
Yeah.
I don't know. But, and I just always assumed when he wasn't playing sports that he was just, there was nothing.
Sitting at home.
Yeah, sitting at home. Okay, when's it reading class? And, you know, that's how I look at it. I have no idea. I have no clue. So the social life in college was fine because you were already had plenty of social experiences as a kid.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And
I still talk to a lot of people. I mean, I haven't seen them in like 5-6 years now, but I still talk to a lot of people that I knew when I was in community college, and we kind of would meet up once in a while and kind of make like goofy videos or something. I did definitely have kind of a very dorky immediate circle of friends,
Sure.
but I mean that suited me just fine.
So, all right, you obviously got into MMA and, you know, the Muay Thai and the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you know, you're doing some of the boxing and all that stuff. You know, that's got to come from somewhere. I mean, did you get involved in any sports between being homeschooled and going to community college?
I'm trying to think. I think that, I mean, beyond just sort of like simple, like, hey, let's play a game of football, like as far as like organized, like going out and training and practicing several times a week, I think Muay Thai was really the first sport I committed myself to in that way.
How old were you when you committed to that?
It was sophomore, senior year of college at Franciscan. I know I had been trying to, because I mean, what I was studying at the time and what I ultimately do for a living is I'm a youth minister at a Catholic church. So I was kind of thinking about it, like I wasn't taking the best care of myself. You know, just my lifestyle, my diet wasn't great. I wasn't getting out and exercising as often as I should. So I was, and it was kind of like I was thinking about the fact that, like, you know, there was a time in history where there were thousands and thousands of people who were willing to go and dedicate, you know, their whole professional life to what I did. And now that's not so much the case. And so there's kind of, I feel like it's almost like an obligation of like, look, the Lord gave me a lot of stuff to do and only one body in which to do it. So I kind of got to take care of the one body that He gave me. Like, I kind of have a responsibility to do that. So I've been trying for like 6 months to like get on some kind of a workout program. We had a really huge, nice fitness center in our university, and I kept like trying to get on like some kind of a strategy. I tried CrossFit, that didn't work. I tried jumping up and down on a box until I couldn't breathe and announcing at CrossFit, and that didn't work. And I needed something that was kind of focused.
Those CrossFit people are weird anyway. It's just odd.
I think there's a really small, really passionate group of people within it that do it and do it well. And then there's kind of like a cloud of people around it that'll do it for like 6 months and like buy all the CrossFit gear and be like, yeah.
They just like to wear it then at the end of the day.
Yeah, and then, but it's, I don't know. It's like people who get into Krav Maga for like 2 weeks and think they're like, you know, Bruce Lee or something.
I'm gonna say I know what that is, but can you tell everybody else what the hell you just said?
Oh, Krav Maga, it's a they don't like it when you call it a martial art, but it's like a system, like a blend of different martial arts, some like throws and takedowns and grappling and punches and kicks. That was developed by the IDF, the Israeli army, to use for their kind of hand-to-hand combat. And so like every person who like goes to school in Israel has to get like a certain level of training in it.
Oh wow!
So like their whole population like has to now learn this kind of like hand-to-hand self-defense.
Just
thing.
because they go to school, they have to learn this.
Well, because they have mandatory service in Israel.
That's right.
There's like a professional dedicated military, and then there's like everybody else gets like a basic level of military training.
I think we should have that here.
Yeah, I mean, I have my opinions, but
well, that's why you're here.
I should suspend some of them, I think.
All right, that's fine.
But yeah, so but because it's developed to kind of be like because most self-defense situations you'll find yourself in are over in 90 seconds or less.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it's really developed to be things you can learn, you can pick up quickly, and then you can apply in a situation. But the problem is people perceive it as like, oh, I can do this, and like I'll learn a couple very sort of simple techniques for very specific situations, and then you know they think like, yeah, I got this, and like then you know they get into a fight, they get their head taken off.
Because that specific situation didn't happen. Plus, a lot of stuff you learn, a lot of things I've found that you learn, it's junk. Like, a lot of it's junk. Now, like, I'm getting way off track here. Like, we're not even anywhere near where I wanted to be. But as far as the top 3, say you had to pick 3. I don't know how you would say it. 3 types of martial arts as your base.
Yeah.
We were having this argument at work the other day because you know, we're being very productive. And my thought, the guy that was making the argument was all about karate.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, I mean, it depends what you're looking for. In my opinion, if you want to instill discipline and you're just looking for something to get into, in my opinion, that can be beneficial.
Yeah.
As far as practical use, I'm not so sure. If I had to pick my base 3, it would be wrestling, jiu-jitsu, and Muay Thai.
Mm-hmm.
Those are my 3.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you have more experience in it than me. I've just had wrestling in my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
Agree, disagree, anywhere close to that?
I mean, I don't have a ton of experience in wrestling. And I'll preface all of this with the fact that like there are black belts in Kempo karate that could absolutely demolish me.
Sure. That's not, that's not the argument at all. But
I mean, I think my personal opinion is the 2 that I practice would be Muay Thai and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I think you can supplement and incorporate some techniques from other martial arts, like at the MMA Academy, for example, we'll do judo throws sometimes because just if there's an effective takedown, you don't want to be like, no, I'm not going to use it.
Sure.
Because if it's effective, you use it. But like as an overarching discipline, as an approach, I think there's 3 components to like being in an actual fight that you need to be aware of. Like one would be striking, just kicks, punches, knees, elbows. Basically anything that like doesn't involve like sustained contact with the other person, and then also you need to have grappling, which is like if the person grabs you, if you grab the other person, if you end up going to the ground with the person, having to wrestle them into some kind of a compromising position. So I would say Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu, because Muay Thai has it incorporates punches, kicks, knees, elbows, using the feet, using the shins. And then also clinches, and you know you can use some techniques from boxing and stuff, but then also like that'll give you kind of like the cardio that you need as far as conditioning yourself. And then I think jiu-jitsu is the most effective for ground grappling, just because like you can. I mean, jiu-jitsu actually is Japanese for gentle art, and Brazilian jiu-jitsu is cool because you know it can at the same time be the most dangerous martial art and at the same time be the most gentle and merciful.
Well, yeah, you can kill somebody.
Yeah,
they don't understand. You can't tap out. You can't get out of a freaking rear naked choke unless they want you to. If you're in a street fight, you can die.
And I mean, like, but you need to have both sides of that. You need to have the grappling and the striking because, like, you could, like, if you're a really, really good jiu-jitsu person, but you don't have any stand-up game, like, you know, somebody could attack you and you could do a jump guard, pull them to the ground, and you get your head slammed on the ground, and then they can punch you in the eye and bust your circular if you don't know how to protect your face. But I would say kind of the third part of that, I don't know, like, you might consider this martial art, you might not, but I would just consider just general, like verbal de-escalation and awareness.
That's an interesting term.
Would be an important component of that because I mean and Professor says this sometimes where he's like a fight you win is a fight you can walk away from.
I love that actually a lot.
Yeah, and so by like understanding kind of like how to avoid a fight, you know, going hands on, like if you can talk the person down and say like, whoa bro, I'm sorry, like, my bad, and walk out and end the confrontation, then great. If it's going a different way and you need to like talk the person down by being like, look, here's what's gonna happen if this continues to escalate, and like
I'm gonna take your arm home with me.
Exactly right. And that is sufficient to kind of like remove the desire to have a conflict, then great. But with that, there's a certain amount of just like learning how to judge a situation, learning how to avoid being in the stupid situation to begin with, and then knowing how to make a decision as to when it needs to go hands on, because you know there's legal implications, there's moral implications, there's your own personal safety. You don't know what that person's capable of. You don't know
what they have on them.
Yeah, you don't know if they have a gun or a knife or something. So I mean, in my opinion, if somebody wanted to kind of fully develop themselves as a martial artist and kind of have a proficient kind of arsenal of different self-defense skills, I would say I would point them to Muay Thai, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and then just general like reading up on how to verbally de-escalate. There's a really good book called Verbal Judo.
Okay.
That deals a lot with that, and I mean there's like, and I think more and more like law enforcement has been kind of picking up like, you know, the need to have greater training in this area. I mean, there's a video that came out on like of a police officer in Salt Lake City that like pulled somebody over, and the guy like rushes out, and like I don't know if he had a knife or something, but like literally you just see the cop like just saying like, go back in your car. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. It's a freaking ticket. Like, get back in your car. I'm not doing this today.
Wow. Guy's lucky he didn't get shot.
Yeah.
Very lucky he didn't get shot.
Well, and I mean, like, you and situations go south really, really quickly.
Well, it sucks because I've been on the criminal justice side of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I worked in, just locally, I worked in Berks County Youth Detention.
Okay.
When that was still here. Before it was just an ICE building and the prison. There used to be a detention center there. They had cutbacks, so I was one of the newer classes that got in, so out the door.
Okay.
And then I got a job at Children's Home of Reading.
Okay.
Worked there for a couple of years. Then I moved out to Pittsburgh to live with my fiance and worked at a place called the Academy. And now I went from working in two relatively, I'd say, stable places. I don't know that the children's home is privately owned, but it ran like a government type of facility.
Yeah.
The Academy was privately owned, and it was fucked up. It was a messed up place. There was when the owner of the company walked into a room, you had to stand and applaud. It was like Hitler. It was like North Korea. If you didn't applaud hard enough, it was like you were pointed out, like, okay, that guy's not getting promoted. Yeah, it was messed up, and that was the most eye-opening experience. There are some places like Berks County Youth that was perfect, ran like a machine.
Yeah.
The juveniles in there knew this is what you do, this is what you don't do, and for 9 out of 10 times followed everything. Didn't have a problem any times.
Yeah.
And children's home, you're dealing with more mental illness there, so you have a lot of issues with that. But then the Academy was complete garbage, and it was the worst experience I've ever had. I was in a fight every day.
Holy cow.
I was in much better shape because I had to be.
Yeah.
I actually went running.
Yeah.
I went running and I'd lift 3 days a week because I was the guy they called in when there was a problem. And yeah, there's things that I did that I'm not proud of there. But you know what? If you don't follow along, you're the outskirt. You're the guy. And you know, I'm the minority in that situation with juvenile and staff. So here I am, this white kid from, I didn't grow up in Reading, I grew up in Topton, Pennsylvania. I don't know if you know where that is.
I don't.
It's maybe 20 minutes and they have one traffic light. So it's a little redneck town.
Okay.
I'm coming from there out to here where, all right, all of my staff members are African American. 90% of the inmates are African American. I need to assimilate to what's going on here, or I'm not going to last. So so that's when you see the stuff on TV. How can a cop do that? It's like, I get it. I mean, that's his life. I get it a little bit.
And what's interesting to me is because like when I think my best friend is in law enforcement and but and some of the and he'll tell you too, like some of the criticism is justified.
Some of it's fair. Yep.
And like there was a recent situation where like a young man was killed in Pittsburgh, and
I saw that.
There's a certain amount of like understandable outrage resulting from that, but what you don't hear is like that cop was disciplined. Like that cop has been fired and like indicted for homicide,
which is a problem.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a problem, and I completely agree.
So like one of the things like that always struck me as interesting is kind of when law enforcement kind of started really kind of taking fire in the media and in the public square. There was this huge call for like body cams on every officer. Yeah. And police departments that could implement something like that were often willing to do it. Yeah. And what people found was like
mostly the cop is justified.
Yeah,
that's what I see.
I mean, there's been situations where like now like people have started like saying like this cop did this cop did this cop did this, and then the police department will release the body cam footage, and you'll realize like, oh shoot, like
yes, this could have been a nothing ticket, and they got in like the example you gave, got out of their car and caused a huge problem when you could have drove home.
Yeah, and like when you actually see from the standpoint of like this person who has a responsibility to protect this community, then like I think it changes things. So what's interesting to me is like there was a call for this basically as like a way to like catch these guys in the act of
So you actually think today they're more understanding?
I think we're getting there. I mean,
I hope we're getting there, but I don't see a lot of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the internet is the best and the worst tool out there for dealing with this, because on one hand you can really get caught up in the hysteria, but on the other hand, like, we have all the information at our fingertips, and so I think the more people are willing to actually like take a deep breath, step outside of your own biases for a second, and go and actually investigate the situation. I think it's fair to ask people on both sides of
it is absolutely
like that to do that, to not jump to a conclusion. I think that I think the environment is slowly getting better for law enforcement. It's obviously there's still a great amount of tension over it, but
it's certainly better than the "what do we want dead cops, what do we want them now" chants.
Yeah,
it's certainly better than that.
Fire or whatever it was.
Yeah,
blankets and
it's better than that.
Yeah.
Now let's get back to where we left off.
Yeah, sorry, that was a good tangent though.
Yes. So what did you major in at community college? I'm not going to pronounce it. I refuse.
I actually can't keep community college. Actually, that used to be like the big shipping hub in the Midwest at one point.
Okay.
Again, side tangent.
Yeah.
Consequently, it's why it's kind of now a run downtown, as there was all this industry that was built around shipping by water, and then people stopped using water as like rivers as a way to ship like large quantities of freight, and so we lost a lot of the money.
That's what, trucking and rail car now?
What's up?
Trucking and rail car now, or what?
I think so for the most part.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we but I majored in just gen eds. The reality is, nobody gets rich working for the Catholic Church, and I kind of went in knowing that like what I wanted to do was ministry, and so I was trying to avoid like additional student debt as far as I could avoid it. So I went there, tried to knock out some of my gen eds, and I think I transferred before I even finished my associates there, and I think that my diploma would have said like literally just the word transfer student,
okay,
or, like transfer arts student or something like that. But I just want to get like my history language requirements out before I had to spend a lot of money to do it.
Sure. And right after that, and again, another freaking word I can't say. So, okay, the university at Steubenville. Franciscan. I could have said that, but I can't read my own handwriting.
Franciscan University of Steubenville.
Okay, so you went there after their community college, and how long were you there?
I was at Franciscan for 3 years.
And you just what did you do there?
Yeah, I majored in youth ministry, or my degree is technically called catechetics.
I wrote that, but I couldn't read it.
Another fun word. But my concentration was in youth ministry, so I mainly just learned about people and about Christ and the church, and how to bring those two people together a little bit more. That's a very brief summary of a lot more in depth I could go into, but
right.
Yeah, that's the main thing, is I learned about Christ and the church, and I learned about people, and I learned methods to bring them together.
Okay, and that's when you started the youth ministry there, or okay.
Yeah.
And what year was that? How long ago was that?
I had been doing ministry related things before that, but I started working with a church my sophomore year, I want to say. So that was, I graduated in 2016, so 2014 I think I started.
Okay.
And that was really where I started kind of like parish level ministry. I had been a missionary before that. I had
Now what's involved in that? Because I have that written down here, and I don't have a timeline. The missionary.
Oh yeah.
And you did that at the Archdiocese of Chicago?
Yeah. So I spent 2 summers just traveling the city, and we would go from church to church, and we would run like a camp or program retreat there, and it was called Totus Tuus, and so we would through doing that we would work mainly with children and with teens, and so during the day we would run kind of like a day camp for the children in the city, and then during the evenings we would run like a teen retreat program. It was about a week long, and then we pack everything up and go to the next parish, and I did that for 2 summers, and they were both amazing. season. My little brother's actually doing it right now.
Oh, yeah?
The backseas of Joliet.
So it's running in the family. So obviously you were raised in that mold there.
Yeah, you could say that.
Okay. You obviously did a lot of other things along the way. I mean, you were the team lead. You were a team leader at the Archdiocese. You were then you get into some interesting stuff here. You were a seafood processor and a deckhand of North Pacific Seafood.
Yeah.
Okay, so far everything makes a little bit of sense and follows a pattern. Where did you go? Yeah, deadliest catch. I want to do that. When did that come into your head?
So I had been going to school for a year. No, I think I've been going to 2 years because I did the year at KCC, and then the summer between KCC and Franciscan, I did Toda Sus the first year, and then the summer between sophomore. So it was my junior year, by the way. I should have said that was 2014 was my junior year, not my sophomore year. But my junior year, between my sophomore and my junior year, I was the team leader for a Toda Sus team, and then it was between my junior year and my senior year. Sorry, I'm getting these.
No, you're fine. I'm horrible at dates.
It was between my junior and my senior year that I was kind of getting to that point where like I was getting ready to graduate. I was getting ready to kind of go off and do my thing in the world, and I realized like I wanted to travel a little bit. I wanted to do some things that I hadn't had the chance to do yet, or hadn't had the courage to do yet, if you want to call it that. And I wanted to see America really badly, so I heard from a friend about this job at a cannery worker, basically. And the thing about, so most of the domestically caught fish in the United States are caught in Bristol Bay, Alaska.
Okay.
It's actually the biggest salmon fishery in the world. But the nature of fish, I don't know if you know this, but give them a little while after being caught, they're not.
They don't smell good. Is that what you're trying to say?
They don't. Yeah, and give them a couple days before you process them, and they're not good to eat. So,
right. Sure.
So the thing is, like, you catch them, but then you got to process them like within like 2 or 3 days. So like even if you like have them in like a freezer tank.
Sure. Yeah.
So a lot of these companies will have these facilities on the coast in Bristol Bay where they'll basically just run them 24 hours a day, and just like boats will bring in their catch, they'll dump them, the cannery will give them a receipt for the number of fish they caught, and then the cannery will process the fish and ship them out. So I was working in the first year when I was a seafood processor, I was actually working in the actual cannery.
Right.
I was receiving the fish, and then sorry. And that gave me a chance to kind of see the Pacific Northwest. On my way up there, I ended up taking Greyhound, which was a horrible idea.
Yeah, why? Terrible bus ride, or just Greyhound in general?
It was long. It was a long time to spend on a bus. It seemed like such a good idea at the time.
How long were you on the bus?
I spent 25 hours on the road uninterrupted.
Uninterrupted? No stop?
I mean, between like we would stop to get on a different bus.
Okay.
Layovers, but like not like stopping to like
see anything
in a hotel or anything like that. Like I would maybe stop for like a half hour at a gas station, stretch my legs, walk around. But
how bad is a Greyhound bathroom after that long on the bus? What was your longest one stretch?
There's like it's like almost like a bell curve. Like it's bad at the beginning, and then it gets worse after a couple hours. But there's like a certain threshold where like you hit it, and then it's just like
you numb out.
You kind of just top out, yeah, and then it just sort of. So I think that was Greyhound in general, but
that would be the worst.
Yeah, I went from I took a mega bus
by yourself though. This is all by yourself.
Yeah, one backpack from Chicago to Minnesota. I spent a week in Minnesota. I crashed on a friend's couch there. That was fun, and then I took a Greyhound bus from Minneapolis to Seattle. Then I stayed in Seattle for a week. And then I flew up to Alaska. I worked 5 or 6 weeks up in Alaska. And that's the nice thing about working in canneries. You can make decent money in a relatively short period of time.
Right.
So I
same as on the boat?
What's that?
Same kind of...
Yeah. The difference with the cannery and the boat is you're paid by the day on the boat versus by the hour on the cannery. So like if there's no fish, there's no money. on
Right.
the cannery boat versus like, so that was the nice part of being on the boat the second year was, you know, I just kind of like, as long as our boat's out there and as long as I'm...
You're getting paid.
Yeah, I'm getting paid, so I get paid either way. Because I was on a tender boat. It's a little different if you're actually on the boat that's catching the fish, but...
So you were on the offload.
Yeah,
Okay.
essentially. So there's kind of... this is another tangent, so
No, that's fine.
stop me if I'm going
No,
too long here. But,
very good.
So there's kind of two... For a while, there was two extremes in the fishing world. There's some countries and some areas where like there's no regulation on fishing whatsoever, and you'll see that in a lot of like Asian Pacific areas where like they'll just fish until there's no fish left.
Yes, which is terrible.
And the problem is, yeah, once those spawning routes are gone, they're gone.
Yeah.
Like there will not be fish that will spawn on that route anymore once you kill off that population.
Wow.
There's not going to be another school of fish that's going to swim through there because they know they follow the same spawning routes as their parents follow. So if you eliminate all of the fish that would be spawning on there, then you know they call it escapement. If there's no escapement, there's no more fish that are going to use that route.
Sure.
So you'll see that with some countries, and then you'll see other countries which regulate it so strictly that it's not a viable industry to be in. You can't make any money doing it. It's so tightly regulated, and so Bristol Bay is cool in that the kind of Alaska Department of Fish and Wildlife just says, let's do both. Let's find a way to make this profitable but also sustainable. And so their response is, instead of having big boats go out and do all the fishing, they send out thousands and thousands of tiny boats.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can yield a lot of fish, but each area that's being fished has like such a low impact that there's enough escapement for the...
You don't kill the routes.
Exactly, yeah. And then the spawning route can kind of repair itself. But the problem is those boats are not really good for like long-term travel, and it can be like a long haul to get out to some of those areas where they fish.
What's a long haul?
I mean, we were anchored in the Quishak River, which was, I think, 6 hours one way.
Oof.
And that was going through open water in Bristol Bay, and so...
So it was like boating to Pittsburgh.
Kind of.
Well, boating to Erie.
But so the response is they build these larger boats that are built kind of for that trip, and so we would go out and we would collect the fish and we would collect the garbage and we would bring the fishermen like their supplies and their mail and everything else, and then we would collect the fish and we would bring it back. It's actually interesting because we work with set netters who like work actually in the river and just set nets out in the river.
Set netters?
Set netters.
Why do they say it backwards? Why don't they just call them net setters?
Because
they're setting nets.
Because they're Alaskans and they don't care.
Okay.
But that's interesting because you think like a fishing boat and you imagine like, you know, like the Maverick from Deadliest Catch.
Yeah.
And a set netter uses a boat that can hold maybe 6 people. You know,
Yeah,
it's
not
like
even close.
It's a little speedboat, like.
Right.
But then there's some bigger ones that are, you know, about the size of like a trailer, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And actually, speaking of the Maverick does contract with North Pacific Seafood. So during the off season, when they're not in the Bering Sea catching snow crabs, because that's only in like a very small period of the year, like. The rest of, or like during the summer when it's salmon season, they're actually tending for North Pacific Seafood, like we were. So
Yeah, I see a lot of that when I actually watch the show.
Yeah.
They got to work year round. They got to make their money. Those boats aren't cheap to run. And so, did you on your boat? What was your boat called?
My boat was called the Porpoise.
The Porpoise. So on the Porpoise, did they offload like I see on TV, where they're taking them just in chutes and kind of? It's almost like a hose.
Yeah.
You're hydroseeding salmon down into your.
Well, we had kind of 4 big tanks on the boat, and all 4 of the tanks had a little gate, a little door that you would lift up, and it would dump everything out of the tank. And then there's kind of like a big tray in the middle of the boat that would sort of just like slide them all down. So it wasn't quite like that. Like we did have like a hose that we would spray it down, but that was just to keep it wet and slippery, and then we would open the gates up and just sort of all the fish would dump into the middle, and then, you know, they would kind of all pour into a big tank that would scoop them all
So
up.
no fish hose. Well, all right, I'm a little
No
disappointed in you,
fish hose.
but that's fine.
Yeah.
Could have lied. So the cannery does now, as far as the cannery goes, your hours on that, I'm assuming have to be crazy, or do you have set hours there?
They're generally a 16-hour shift.
Okay, but it's open 24.
Yeah, it runs 24 hours a day, and there's 3 shifts, and they overlap with each other. So like A shift will start, and like you'll be starting, and like the first 8 hours of your shift, you'll be working with people from C shift, and then at the end of when you'll go to lunch, C shift will go to bed, and then when you come back from lunch, B shift will be starting their shift, and then you'll work another 8 hours, and then you'll eat dinner, you'll go to bed. B shift will keep working through the night, and when you're going to bed, C shift's coming out.
Gotcha.
So it's so the facility runs 24 hours, but typically you'll work. I mean, at the height of the season, you'll be working 16 hours.
What shift were you on?
I was on A shift.
So what was that time frame again? A shift?
A shift. I don't have the exact. I mean, So when the season was full, like when we were running at full capacity, we would be working 16 hours and then we'd be sleeping 8 hours.
Sure, but I guess,
want to shower, eat.
I guess my question would be, was it like a typical, you started at 6 in the morning and you worked, like what, as far as A shift goes?
Yeah, I'm trying to think here. I think we got up at 6, started working at 6:30.
So you were a typical day shift.
Yeah.
More or less because of the 16 hours.
Yeah. And then you'd be going to bed and it's Alaska, so the sun's out the entire time.
Yeah, does that mess with you? How does that mess with you?
It does. Like
a vampire.
I will tell you, like we taped like trash bags up against our windows. So
Yeah.
it would be pitch dark in our room so we could sleep. But the lack of sleep messes with you.
Yeah.
Like, I remember there was I was so tired on the flight home or on the flight back to Anchorage that I actually hallucinated on the plane.
Really?
I was so tired. Yeah.
No mushrooms, no ayahuasca, nothing.
No, it was so weird because so this thing is to keep the facility clean. All the machines are constantly getting sprayed with water. There's people that walk around with like fire hoses and just spray the machines down. Because you don't want to like get like a nasty piece of like salmon guts like stuck in something that's gonna like fester and grow a bunch of bacteria.
Right, and it's on everything. Yeah.
And so there's that, and then there's also just all the machines like have kind of their own little system that'll rinse them. So you're wearing these boots that go up to your knees, and you're constantly like ankle deep in water because it's like all rushing out, and then sometimes a bunch of fish guts will get stuck in the drain, and the water will get deeper. And I remember I fell asleep on the plane, and I was still wearing my big rubber boots.
So you were everybody's friend. You probably smelled great.
Right? Yeah. No. Well, it was a bunch of other cannery workers.
Oh, they got it
there,
then.
so we were good. But I fell asleep, and I was still wearing my big rubber boots. And I kind of like nodded off, and I remember waking up, and I like looked down, and I saw like water like around my ankles, like I was still.
You hallucinated that you were back there.
And I was freaking out on the like I'm sitting here in the plane thinking like somehow in my like delusional tired mind like. I was convinced that like clouds were like condensing on the inside of the aircraft.
Oh my God! You were messed up.
Well, this is the thing is we worked a 16-hour shift, and then we found because they don't give you a lot of warning. It's like once there's too many people in the cannery, like it is not profitable for them to keep you there. Like it's because they have to pay to house you, feed you, do your laundry. They actually would have a staff.
So you paid nothing.
No, I didn't. I paid no room or board or anything like that.
And is that a program or something, or can you just go, I want to do this, and they'll just like, good, we need people?
That's typically, for the company that I work with, North Pacific, they don't charge room and board. They consider that kind of part of your compensation for working there. They'll also cover your flight to and from Alaska, which is cool because that can be pretty expensive. But
you just got to get there.
Yeah. So
on a bus.
I need to get as far as Seattle. Seattle's the point of hire, but. I'm trying to think what happened here. So we had just worked to 16, and so they don't give you a lot of warning. They told us literally, they're like, hey, you're going home tomorrow, pack your stuff. So, and sometimes they won't even give you that. Sometimes like you'll wake up and you'll show up for work, and they'll be like, no, your flight takes off in 2 hours. Go get your stuff.
Why aren't you on the plane right now?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, because they don't want. They're concerned that like people will like be like, we're going home tomorrow, and then they'll go into the town and they'll party or something, and then they'll miss their flight, and then so. But me and my buddy Rio, we had both just got off at 16. We were both leaving the next day, so we both stayed up. We packed our stuff, and then by the time that we were like ready to go to bed, it was like stupidly early in the morning, and we were like, all right, we can either sleep for a couple hours and possibly miss our flight tomorrow, or we can force each other to stay awake
up.
and make sure that we both get to our flight tomorrow. So that's what we decided to do. And so it was more than 24 hours of like no sleep.
What'd you do to stay up?
You know, I think we just talked.
I'm horrible at that.
We just talked about our life. We just told stupid jokes, and after a while, like, you know, everything's hilarious.
Well, because you're like drunks. You're drunk tired.
Yeah, right. So, but yeah, so I thought that the clouds were leaking into the plane. I remember like because I fell asleep again. I was like, this is stupid. Like, this is not happening. Like, I fell asleep again, and then I woke up again, and it was happening again.
Right.
So I like yanked my rubber boots off, and like planted my feet on the floor, and I was like, there, I don't feel any water. I'm good. Like,
So that snapped you out of it. Just putting your actual feet on the floor.
yeah, it was weird. And then I
You don't want to freak out in an airplane. It's not the best thing.
No, I mean, I remember, I vaguely recall, because it was like that half, like when your alarm goes off and it's Saturday and you know you don't have to get up, but you probably should, and you're kind of like, so
Right.
it was like that. But I remember looking over and seeing one of the flight attendants, and she was just chill. So I was like, all right, like,
We're good.
if there's water in the plane, like, she obviously knows what's going on, so we're good.
Wow, so you were 100% living that. That was real.
I mean, it was terrifying, but like,
Wow.
so, but no, I got on that plane and I was asleep before we were off the tarmac. Like,
That's kinda
I
nice.
sat down, buckled up, and I was out.
Man, you were exhausted.
Yeah.
And then you went back.
I-
Then you went back another year.
Yeah.
After that horrifying experience, after the miserable bus ride, you said, "Yeah, I'll do that again."
Yeah, I was a little, well, my intention actually was to go do another missionary summer before, because like I had this whole plan. It was funny because like, you know, they joke about like you want to make God laugh, you know, what do you do? You tell them your plans. But I had this whole plan worked out. I had this job lined up where like I was gonna wait to go into ministry. I was gonna do like this kind of niche skilled trade job that one of my friend's dads was gonna help set me up with. And I was just gonna work for like a year and just try to pay off all my student loans and just, you know, and then I was gonna go to ministry after that. And so my plan was go home, fix up my dad's truck, go to Texas, do a missionary thing in Texas, come back, start working in this job, work it for a year, and then go into ministry. That was my plan. Got home, there's no way I'm gonna be able to fix this truck, so I need to buy a new car. This job is not, like, this is within like 12 hours of me getting home. This job like is like, because there's like a union rule or something, like I'm basically not gonna be able to do this for like 2 years.
Right.
And it was supposed to be like a temporary gig. So like, and like, so there's a union rule that's keeping me, basically disqualifying me from the job for an indefinite period of time. And it's just like nothing was working out. So like I called the camp that I was gonna work at. I was like, I'm really, really sorry. And they were very understanding about it. But like the fact is I needed to make money.
Right,
like,
sure.
I needed funds because I was gonna have to buy a truck, or I was gonna have to buy a car, and then I was gonna have to move somewhere for work where I did not yet know where I was gonna work.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
had to like apply for jobs. So I needed time and I needed money. And the two things that job in Alaska had afforded me was an opportunity to make a lot of money within a short period of time.
Absolutely.
So that's what I did. And then I got up there fully intending to work another summer as a,
Yeah.
as a processor.
There's no water on the floor, just
right,
in case you're wondering right now.
Just, you know, checking.
You look tired. I just want to make sure.
And then like I got up there, and that year it was just stupid luck. Like it was, but that year the Department of Fish and Wildlife in Alaska was moving tender books over to like electronic only. So like usually the skipper, the captain of the tender boat, like they keep track of all of the catches and everything. They write the receipts for all the fishermen and everything. So they're responsible for knowing how much fish is being caught, who is being caught by, where it's being caught. And so they would keep a logbook, and then they were supposed to like give their logbook over like every time they would go to shore, and they would like take a picture or something, and they would update this big network of like the entire bay, of, like thousands of fishermen, like who's catching what and where it's being caught, so that Fish and Wildlife can basically track like, oh shoot, like we're killing off this entire population in this river, we need to slow this down, or oh we can catch.
So the regs change as you go?
Yeah, I mean, well, and sometimes they'll direct fishermen to different spawning routes, and sometimes they'll like let fishermen know, like they'll like put a hold for like a day of there was a couple days the year that I was working there where like it was really really hot and the fish didn't want to swim up lake or swim up river, so they basically just said like stop fishing for a little while, because if you set netters, go out there, put your nets out, like you're gonna be catching all the fish that are currently going up the lake and or up the river, and we don't want that. So sometimes they'll put like a hold on it. There's like
how pissed do people get when they do that?
It usually this is the thing that really surprised me is usually fishermen are pretty understanding of like that, because they know that like if there's not a population of fish to respawn, they're out of a job.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
When it's like 2, 3, 4 days in a row and there's no end in sight,
they get rammy.
Then people start to get annoyed because they're stressed out.
Right.
They're like, we need to be back.
We're spending money too.
Yeah, we're spending money to be here. We need to be back in the lower 48 by a certain date. We need to make money before then. So, and that's a lot of them. That's their livelihood. So,
right.
So, where was I going? Oh yeah. So, so they were changing it over where they were doing everything by computer. And the problem is my skipper on the porpoise was 81 years old.
Yeah, that's not going to go well with technology.
Yeah, so basically they went and they asked a bunch of the supervisors in the cannery. They were like, we need somebody who is easy to get along with. And this is not a sign conceited, but they're like, we need somebody who's easy to get along with, who can understand computers, and who's not going to complain.
I agree with everything but the first part.
Yeah. And it's not a comfortable couple of weeks on a tiny boat with 3 other people that and no opportunity to do laundry or regular sleep schedule, because like you sleep when there's no boats, and when boats show up to drop their fish off, like you better be up, because those fishermen need to drop their fish off so they can go back and they can sleep and they can eat. So like my whole sleep schedule is basically like whenever there's like low water, the fishermen are out fishing at that point, so I can sleep then. And so
what's your longest stretch besides the previous year at the cannery? Did you ever have a longer stretch where you weren't sleeping?
I didn't really keep track of it because I just slept whenever I could on the boat. There was actually I do remember several times like falling asleep at my workstation on the boat, because like I would sit there with the computer and I would keep track of everything, and I would if my skipper needed me to go downstairs and grab something or something, because he's an older guy, it's harder for him to move around. He'll forget something and he'll leave me to run. But like I do remember several times like falling asleep at my workstation on the bridge in the boat, and so I didn't really keep track of it as much, because I would just kind of sleep when I can, and then when I hear a boat, it's time to wake up and it's time to work. So
now normally, I mean, I guess you could say that was a lucky break that you caught doing that. Normally, I mean, are the guys on these boats the normal guys that are there every year on these boats?
There are a lot of people who are like there consistently. So like Glenn, my skipper, had been working there for like 20 years, I think, at that point.
What about the rest of the deckhands there? Are you the new guy, and they've all been there and know the routine?
Yeah, the youngest guy after me was 56 years old.
So how does that go? Is there an initiation or something like that? Because it sounds like you got a job of transferring information, which is not the worst thing you could do on a boat.
Yeah.
And here's this young guy coming in, and here's these grizzled veterans. Man, I can't get off the deck. Yeah.
There was a little bit of that in the beginning, and I remember, but I do remember there was one day and we would get into it sometimes, and me and other like the other deckhand, the older guy who's like he was like 50 something years old, he was angry because he was like, I've been on boats for like my entire life, like since I was 6 years old, and I'm still, I mean, and a certain amount of it is justified. Like I don't understand the language that they use, I don't understand like the procedures and everything, and I remember there was one day I walked up to our engineer, and I was like, I'm done with this guy. Like he needs to cut the crap or he's taking a swim. Those are the options at this point. And it was interesting because like he Newt was his name, and Newt kind of took me down to the kitchen area, and we just sort of sat for a little while, and we drank some whiskey and we talked, and I learned a little bit more about his life. He was a Vietnam veteran, and
wow.
And as we kind of went back and forth, like I ended up I asked Give me something to do. Give me a job. I don't care if it's like the crappiest job that nobody wants to do. Just give me a job other than the one I have. And so he joked. He's like, well, the tank needs to be scrubbed out. I was like, all right, let's do it. Let's go. So I put on like my rain gear and I jumped down into the tank with a bucket, and there's like algae and fish guts and everything, and I spent a couple hours just scrubbing it out, and I sprayed the whole thing out, and it was kind of like there was the next interaction I had with this other deckhand, there was just kind of a moment of like, all right, you're okay.
You earned his respect.
Yeah, well, because it's like there's this whole sense of like. It's almost like it's similar to the military where there's like they talk about like embracing the suck. Like you need to suffer in the same way that everybody else in this group suffers.
Paying your dues.
Yeah, exactly. So and through that I ended up because I ended up speaking to this guy a little bit more and learning a little bit more about his life, and he turned out to be an okay guy. Like we're just two very different people that were forced to live in very close quarters with each other for a month and a half.
I can absolutely understand. A young guy comes on, gets a cushier job. Not cushy, but cushier.
You could say that. Like,
and yeah, I mean that can breed resentment. I can absolutely see that. But how is that your fault?
Right.
Yeah. So, that sucks when that happens.
It's just an effort of like you kind of have to like try to understand this person and where they're coming from, and once you do that, that's very empowering because you can, you can change the way that you approach them, or at least you can change the way you respond to the things they do. Like. Right. Sure. So.
All right, so we got the crab boat. Not crab boat. Sorry, salmon boat. I apologize, salmon boat.
Crab fishermen are actually like a little bit insane. Like you have to be like a little crazy to do that.
It looks like hell. It looks like.
And they seem to enjoy it. I mean, like even my engineer Newt was a crab fisherman. He was actually one of the best crab fishermen in the country at one point, and but I mean he talks about it like he's. Like those were the best moments of his life when he was like fighting really rough seas and ice was blasting over his deck and people were throwing up. Because
he survived it. That's why it's the best moment.
And because it's like almost like a victory. Like it's like I did it and I won.
Right. Sure. Yeah. I'm not down at the bottom here.
Exactly.
I'm doing all right.
Yeah.
So all that takes place between you getting out of community college and today.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is a span of, you graduated, when did you graduate?
I graduated 2016.
Okay, so you did a lot. You did a lot of things in a very short span of time, and then you went, you know what, get a little chubby. I should get into MMA. I should get kicked in the head. So.
Well, I had already done Muay Thai.
The Muay Thai when you were younger,
right? I just missed it. I really missed martial arts because I think that was the first moment in my life where like I really started to kind of really feel like I was making some progress in my own fitness level, and also because it's a practical skill. Like being able to defend yourself is a universally useful skill.
Absolutely.
So it kind of gave me a reason to get motivated to go to the gym and kick a bag until my legs were red and sore. And
now, do you do the Muay Thai thing? Like I read a book. What was it? Oh, I don't remember. The guy on the front had a broken nose, and it was something. My life as a fighter, or something like that. Mm-hmm. He actually went to Thailand to train with the Thai kickboxers and stuff like that. And the Muay Thai fighters, they actually roll their shins with a bottle with tinfoil over it and like oil on their shins to break down the nerve endings in their shins. Did you ever hear about anything like that?
I have heard about that. I mean, I can't speak to the specifics of it. I know there's balms and oils and stuff that they use in Thailand that aren't as frequently used in the United States. But I think a lot of it. So like I did do conditioning. I did do shin conditioning. But I think in my opinion, the most effective way to do shin conditioning is just to kick repeatedly with your shins over and over and over again.
And just a bag?
Yeah. There's like, so I mean you can do it with a heavy bag, but there's also like a type of punching bag. They call it a Thai bag, and it's longer. It's a little less heavy. It gives a little bit more when you kick it, but it's like the size of a human being.
Okay.
So like, and that's what they use. And that was actually developed for Muay Thai and for kickboxers. But the thing is, like the central nervous system, like the reason that like you bang your shin on a coffee table.
I almost just made that exact comparison because I was gonna say I bang my shit on the coffee table and I'm in pain and I'm cursing.
Right. Yeah. I feel that you have this moment where like you kick it and you just long for the sweet release of death.
Yes.
But that's because we've evolved to like detect like something impacting our shins as danger. Like it shoots that pain signal in your brain, so that your body's basically saying to your brain, yo, I'm about to trip over something, stop running or stop doing what you're doing, like you're gonna hurt yourself.
Right.
And so part of it is like you, just by doing it over and over and over again, you eventually will condition your nervous system to like feel that type of impact.
So you kill the spawning route, is what you're saying.
Not exactly.
Oh, come on.
Like,
I thought I had a good one.
It was funny. I'll give you a laugh, but I'm not happy about it. But like you, like if you brush your, like if I were to brush my fingers on my shin, like I can still feel my fingers. Like if I had like they call it like deadening the nerves, but like if I had deadened the nerves in my leg,
You wouldn't feel that,
I
right?
wouldn't feel anything. What happens instead is you train your central nervous system to not send that pain signal to the brain, because you've taught, this is not a perfectly scientific way to describe it, but like you've taught your brain and your central nervous system to not react as strongly to that kind of pain, because you kind of taught it, you conditioned it to the point where it no longer reacts to it as a danger signal.
This is acceptable. Is what your body
exactly yeah. And it's good, because actually the lower part of your shin is the hardest bone in your body, and like when a trained Muay Thai fighter kicks at full power, it's like hitting something with a baseball bat.
Yes, that's what I hear.
But it's but the problem is it's surrounded by this big cluster of nerves, because we have to protect ourselves from tripping and falling over things all the time. So you can do that, but it hurts a lot until you condition yourself. And also like you want to get your bones built up a little bit, like you want to form those like little microfractures and then recalcify it, so that it actually, you harden the bone as well, so you don't end up breaking your leg on somebody's shin or something.
Sure.
You know, because if they're a Muay Thai fighter, like they're
gonna check it. Yeah,
they know how to check it.
So, are you ever gonna? Have you ever had thoughts of competing? Or I mean, I've seen you're a 4th degree white belt in is that strictly jiu-jitsu, or is that just the Pereira kind of teaching?
So when you say competing, like what do you mean like?
Well, there's jiu-jitsu tournaments, there's MMA, there's all kinds of different things.
I've actually competed in 3 jiu-jitsu tournaments.
Okay.
I've medaled in one of them.
Oh, good.
The last one I did, I got completely smoked, because it was the Team Jucow in-house, which like our gym is part of a bigger network of gyms called the Jucow network, or Team Jucow, and so that one was made up of all of the Jucow gyms in this part of the country, and so consequently like the fighters were on a much higher level than a lot of the ones that you'll go, like if you just go to like Naga over in like we had like there was one in Morgantown, there was one in Philadelphia not too long ago. Like if you go to like North American Grappling Association, you'll get people at all different levels, whereas like the guy, for example, like the guy that I fought in the Jucow tournament, like was promoted to a blue belt like that day.
Okay.
Because he executed everything so perfectly, like. And I was actually I was telling the professor afterwards, I was like, because he'll ask us after every fight, like, how do you think he did? How did that go? Even if we lost, even if you got completely smoked, and even if you did super well, he might say, yeah, but here's some things you can work on, and you might do super poorly, but he might say like, yeah, but here's some things you did well. So he'll ask us like, how do you think you did? And I just kind of shook my head. I was like, honestly, I'm at peace with the fact that I lost, because that person is a far better fighter than I am or will be for a long time.
Yeah.
So like, I have competed in jiu-jitsu. I almost competed in Muay Thai a couple months ago, but I was really trying to focus on my jiu-jitsu, because that was one area I think I needed to develop myself a little bit more. I have not yet given too much thought to competing in MMA. Maybe down the road, but I want to make sure that I'm really, really solid in my striking and really, really solid in my grappling, because MMA is kind of like bringing those two things together. And so I guess that would be the next thing after I've spent some time competing in
both aspects.
Yeah, in the striking part of it. But yeah, I have competed in jiu-jitsu. That's actually part of how we rank up, is like a lot of times like because Professor really encourages all of us to compete, because that's really the best measure of where you're at.
It's testing you.
Yeah, because I can roll with somebody at the academy, and we roll every single day with jiu-jitsu. And I can roll with somebody at the academy, and like there's a couple guys there that are just better fighters than I am. I can roll, and I can outlast them a little bit. I can't get any like I can't get in an advantageous position on them.
Right.
But I can avoid.
You can hang.
Yeah, I can hang. I can avoid them tapping me, but it's because I'm so used to their style. Like I know what they're going to do.
Yes.
And in the same way, like I have people who like I would like to think I'm a little bit more of an experienced fighter with them, but I can't tap them to save my life.
They know what you do.
They know what I'm going to do before I even do it.
So you stall out.
Basically,
you stall out.
Sometimes, yeah. But and it's good. It's a chance to work on your endurance and work on like kind of different. You can try different things out in that situation, but and there's other guys that are lower ranked than me that are just straight up better fighters than I am, that have more natural talent, that have better technique than I do. But a tournament really is a better measure of where you're at overall in your jiu-jitsu, because you're going up against somebody with a completely different style than you, with a completely different background than you, that you are not as familiar with them and their techniques and their strategy. And it's interesting because even Master Jude Kyle, a guy that kind of like oversees all of the schools that we're part of in our association, like he'll tell us, because sometimes he'll get on the mat and he'll roll with us when we have our like conferences and things like that. And he'll tell us, he's like, I know based on rolling with you who your professor is, because I see their style and how you roll. I see their style and how you fight. So a tournament really is kind of like you're exposing yourself a little bit. You're putting your medal against somebody else's, and so that's usually, if you really want to advance quickly, if you really want to learn quickly, and then also like move up and rank quickly,
compete more.
Competing is really, and I mean, two of the tournaments that I've been in, like I did not do as well as I would have liked to. I did one where I medaled, and I thought I did really well, and then there was one where I did okay, and then there was this Jucal one where just I will fully admit the guys that I were fighting with were just better fighters than I was.
But that's what you want.
But yeah, and you know, I noticed like even just a difference in my training. Like I'll go from like here to here, in which people listening can't actually see the.
Sure, he's raising his hand higher.
Yes, exactly. But it's because like you see so quickly like the things you need to improve on, and you have this motivation, this drive to improve on them, because you don't want to get your face pressed into the floor again.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, I've competed in jiu-jitsu. I've thought about doing MMA, but I would want to do some kind of like Muay Thai or striking competition before I made the jump to like hopping in a cage. And MMA tournaments are hard to get into it, because you like and this is the thing, and this is why I don't really understand like the bias against MMA, because like people would say like, oh, it's this brutal savage sport.
Because they don't know what they're watching.
Exactly. Well, and the amount of like scrutiny involved in just getting into the cage is insane, like in a good way. But like if you are not ready to fight, you will not fight. Like,
no, not even on some of these shady underground promotions.
I don't know about that.
Where they still weigh in on a bathroom scale.
I don't know about that. But like if it's like a sanctioned like most of the fights in Pennsylvania, for example, like if you have to get a blood test done, your professor has to okay you to fight, you have to get a physical done, and they have to okay you to fight, the association for the state has to okay you to fight, and then the promoter has to clear you to fight.
Right.
Like there's so many steps involved in just getting into that cage. And then like how many other sports do you have a physician like on call watching the two competitors?
A physician, not many.
Yeah, so like in an MMA fight, like you have that, like they're watching these two people, and at any point they can be like, stop, we're done. Like they're not, that person's not okay. They got hit too many times in the head. Their arms bending in a funny way, and I don't want to see them get hurt. So I mean there are injuries, but like and I would say there's probably more small injuries than like like professional football, for example. But like there are injuries that you recover from. Like you don't have these like long-term brain damage situations, because
it fights over.
Yeah, it fights over. And in MMA, people tend to defend themselves in a more intelligent way. Like boxing, I mean, boxing's fun, but like long term, it's not great for you.
No, it's terrible for you.
Because you're getting punched in the head repeatedly, and like versus like if you come up on somebody in an MMA fight, like they can throw a kick, they can throw a knee, they can clinch you in a way they might not be able to do in a boxing match. And it's just interesting because like even with really stupid thing that's happening on the internet right now, where like KSI is challenging all these other YouTubers to fight. Like somebody called like. I mean,
Who's KSI? What's KSI?
Oh, it's this guy I had never heard of before all this happened, but he's like a YouTuber gamer guy that like got into a beef with some other YouTuber and like literally just challenged him to a fight. So they like had like an actual boxing match, and like but there were some people were like, this is a stain on the noble sport of boxing. I'm like, okay, bro, but it's two people punching each other and
right.
one of them passes out.
Right,
like,
right. It's not going to be. I mean, what'd you expect?
But now he's going to fight Logan Paul, and so it's I don't know.
So you just brought up injuries. Have you had anything, or have you been lucky so far?
Most of my injuries have been just like minor, like muscle injuries, like you know, something will get pulled or something will get strained or something, and you ice it. You take a couple days, and you're usually good to roll again. I did mess up my toe pretty badly one time.
A toe injury.
Yeah, it was weird. Like it was like so. What happened was I was on the ground and this person was standing up, and I had his wrist. And I tried to armbar him from the ground, and usually when a person is armbarred, they're like the defense is like they'll like try to pull you in closer, and they'll try to like get basically to a point where you're not bending their arm the wrong way and can't hurt them.
Which is 100% the non-natural reaction.
Right, exactly. He did the natural reaction, which was to start flailing around.
Yes.
But he ended up falling forward, and my feet. If you can almost imagine, like, you know, my feet were braced against his chest. And so he was falling forward. So my feet
over top of you?
Over top of me.
Okay.
My feet were going toes down onto the mat. And like my big toe, my index toe, is that what it's called?
I'll give you that.
Okay. Big toe, my index toe, and my middle toe, like they all spread out, and it looked like Yoda's foot for a second there. And I heard like a cracking sound. So that
was it a break there? Did you break your toes, or did you just pop some capsules in your joint or something?
I genuinely don't know. They're fine now, but it did keep me not at 100% for a couple days.
So if you're rolling with Ned Hesser, toe locks. Toe locks. So what else? I did email your professor, and he said about coming on, and he said there's a ton of stuff going on with your gym all over the summer. Is that more just like gym versus gym type of things, or gym tournaments? Like I'm not sure how that
we're pretty
works.
involved in tournament scene. We fight. I mean, obviously we do our association, which is the Team Jucow tournaments and seminars. But then we also do North American Grappling Association, and then which the NAGA is the other word for it, and then we do IBJJF, the International Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Federation tournaments, and then there's like once in a while we'll get like a miscellaneous like grappling industries or something. We'll have a tournament in our area, and so we'll go to that. We just have a very active gym. Like we have a class every morning, a class every evening. We do Muay Thai and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu every single day. Then we have weekend classes. So it's pretty busy. But there's a lot of opportunity. That's the cool thing for me is because my job has an unpredictable schedule sometimes.
I'm sure.
So like, I am a youth minister. I work primarily with teenagers. When is the time teenagers are most active? The evenings.
Right.
So if I can't get in the evening, if I know I can't get in the evening, I can go in the morning when I know my students are all going to be at school. So
right.
Right. But it's cool because like there's all these opportunities to do it, and then Professor Carrera, and I guess just big picture, I should also point out like Professor is like the jiu-jitsu equivalent of like master or sensei or
right. I was wondering where that came from because I haven't heard professor yet.
Yeah. And it stems from the sort of tradition that like jiu-jitsu's not like Brazilian jiu-jitsu specifically is what this applies to, but it's not a sport that's solely intended for big guys. Like the Helio Gracie was kind of the founder of jiu-jitsu.
He didn't need strength to do it.
Yeah,
yes.
He was this tiny, sickly little kid.
Yes.
And he could dominate. He could just absolutely dominate these people who are 2-3 times his size. And so our teachers, like our head teachers, our high-ranking teachers, we call them professor because we understand it's kind of a nod to the fact that like it's not all about strength and raw power. It's about knowledge and technique. Because technique will, like if you have really good technique and decent strength, against a guy who has a lot of strength and no technique.
You're gonna win that.
Technique will win every time.
Yes. 100% agree.
So it's just kind of like knowledge is power, and so we call him kind of professor because you're the one with the knowledge that you're imparting on
Sure.
us. So, but it's interesting because professor is he's a 4th degree black belt, which is a lot.
Yeah.
Like, it takes like 10 years for most people just to get up to being like a regular black belt.
Mm-hmm.
And then also he has a 4-0 MMA record, and he had a like a Muay Thai title at one point. So like, I mean, he's one of the most qualified martial artists in the country, and he actually trains here in Reading of all places.
Right, exactly. You lucked out.
But yeah, so we do have a pretty active schedule, but it's cool because like he will always make time to be there for the evening classes. So.
Good. So he shows up at the evening classes and somebody else runs the morning ones, or?
Typically, yeah.
Okay.
We have a couple other instructors at our school that will alternate the morning classes, and then we'll have guys that all take turns running the weekend classes. But yeah, we have usually like the higher, like the purple and the brown belts will run the morning classes and the weekend classes.
Okay.
But weekend classes, it'll 9 times out of 10 be a professor that'll be teaching you.
So you've only been doing this a year, and obviously, after I reached out, he had complete confidence in sending you out to basically represent him. So it sounds like in all these experiences that you've had that kind of be part of it. Like with the salmon boat, you were like, you fit this mold. We trust you to do this. Yeah, you're not the experienced guy on the boat, but we trust you to do this. And we know you're going to do a good job. And you've been doing MMA for a year. You're a 4th degree white belt, which in the scheme of things, you're getting to where you want to be, but you're lower on the scale of things. And he 100% entrusts you to not go, yeah, it's fun. I get to hurt people. I get to choke them. It's really good. That's what we do there. I mean, that says something about who you are. You're obviously a pretty stable person who, tons of people.
Flatter me.
I don't know you yet, but from what I.
Stable person, though.
Well, coming from me, my bar is low.
I got you.
But no, I mean that's just that's an amazing thing. You're not that old of a guy. How old are you?
I'm 24.
Yeah, I mean for all the stuff you've done in your life already. I mean, in my opinion, that's a hell of an accomplishment. I don't see any trip ups. I mean, you have some weird stuff, but I don't see any trip. Is there anything like adversity was that you've had to overcome?
That's a good question.
Besides the daily stuff, everybody does it on a daily basis. They have to fight through to get to the next day. But
yeah, I don't know. I think I'm going to get into some more religious themes now, if you'll excuse me a little bit.
You're fine.
I think my own biggest personal journey. I don't want to call it like a struggle, but like my big personal journey has just been like kind of and I think it's something we all struggle with, but just the ability to kind of know who you are and be confident in who you are and live up to who you are. I think sometimes people will almost cop out and they'll just they're acting full a little bit like, this is who I am, and it's like, right, but like that's not who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's got their quirks, but who you are is I think a much bigger question, and I think sometimes I don't know, I personally believe the majority of people who are really, really struggling to find some kind of direction in their life, who seem to have lost their way, it's because they've forgotten their identity. I think we all struggle with that because that's we live in a fallen world that wants to tell us who we are. I mean my own and I don't need to get into the whole thing here, but just my own story. Like I had a lot of struggles with like my birth father.
Okay.
So
you were adopted.
Well, it's sort of. I mean, my mom was divorced and remarried, and then the guy that I will address as dad is
her new husband.
Yeah.
Okay.
My technically on paper he's my stepfather.
Okay.
But my take on it is that he's the man who raised me. He's the man who taught me how to be a man, and so he's my dad in every way that matters to me. But there's a lot of baggage that was attached to that.
Sure.
And that whole part of my own story, and kind of coming to terms with that has always been, and some days still is, a little bit of a struggle, especially just getting to the point in my life where I'm becoming a man, where it's like, you know, things that are associated with like masculinity and fatherhood are like they're difficult, they're scary sometimes.
Yeah.
But you know, there's a story in the Gospel of Luke when Jesus kind of, you know, is starting kind of his public ministry. The first thing he does is he goes to the Jordan River and he gets baptized by John the Baptist. And there's in that story, like it says like kind of when he comes up out of the water, like the heavens split open. I said Luke, but I was actually thinking of the Gospel of Mark. And you know, in Mark 1:11 it says like, "You are my beloved son, and in you I am well pleased." And I remember kind of, I spent a couple years really struggling like with like, who am I, like what is my identity, who am I before God, and I really thought of myself more as like a servant, like just kind of like a almost like an idiot servant, like kind of like you're okay, I'll keep you around,
right.
Like but I kind of thought like, you know, he gives me a job to do, and I do it, and you know, I do that, and if I do it well enough, then he'll like me, then I'll be okay, then I can be okay with that knowledge of who I am. And I remember it was just funny because like, funny is the wrong word, but it was one morning in Mass actually. It was my second year as a missionary when I was kneeling in Mass, and I was thinking like, I just had this just perfect moment. Like, you know, you ever have one of those days where like it's perfect Sunday morning, you're sitting out on your patio, the sun's shining through the wind's blowing through the leaves, and you know, you got this cup of coffee, just everything's great, everything's hunky.
It's rare, but yes, I know what you mean.
Yeah, but you have that moment of just like man, like I just wish I could take a picture of this and just store it away for, you know, later when I have those crap days of like, I don't want to get up and do another podcast.
So it's pure happiness is basically what you're feeling in the moment.
And I had that moment, and I just thought like, you know, like Lord, like, you know, you did all this for your servant, like what you know, like how good do you have to be, you know, to do all this for a servant, like for just a humble, like not great, admittedly sometimes, servant. And in my head, in my heart, I heard those words echo, like, "You are my beloved son, and you I am well pleased."
You heard those words.
Like, they came to mind. I mean,
right.
I believe the Lord speaks to everybody who's willing to listen, and I think that for me at least, he kind of puts things in my heart. He puts kind of ideas and stuff, and then he lets me kind of do the legwork of like figuring out how to put it into words, because I like the sound of my own voice and I listen to myself better than most other people. But like, I mean, like, so like if he decided to be like, you know, with Joan of Arc, where he's like, all right, I'm gonna tell you exactly what I need you to do.
Right.
I don't know how well that would go over.
No.
Like, I'd be like, no, but I want to do the thing. Like,
right. Maybe that was him. He was sending you a message that there's water on the floor.
Right.
Exactly. And you need to take your shoes off.
Yeah. But we had actually just been, because we'd just been doing a thing with where we were learning about the mysteries of the Rosary, and one of them is the baptism in the Jordan, and kind of in the midst of that, I kind of, those words came to mind of like, "You are my beloved son, and you I'm well pleased," and it was just a moment where like I was just overcome. Like, I you know, we hear that story about like the prodigal son, where like, you know, the son comes, like goes out, like acts a fool, comes back, like just sobs, like, "Father, you know, like I no longer deserve to be called your son. I don't deserve to be your son. Like treat me like a slave, treat me like a servant." And I realized that kind of my whole life up to that point had been like that. Like had been like the son saying, you know, like, "Father, I'm not worthy to be called your son. I don't deserve to be called your son. Like, treat me like a servant, treat me like a slave, treat me like, you know," and there was just a moment of him being like, "No, like, you're my son. Like,
you're better than this.
You're my child."
Yeah.
And like, and I think knowing who you are changes things. And I can't speak to like every individual's like own experience, and I recognize that, like, I come from a very religious background, and not everybody shares that. But like, I truly believe knowing who you are at the core of your being, like knowing that changes everything. Knowing that can inform every decision you make. It can inform every challenge that you come across. It can inform how you act in every situation. If you know who you are, you're
powerful stuff, man. Now, knowing who you are from a religious point of view, or just knowing who you are, like, I mean, I don't know how to separate that, being a non-religious person.
I gotcha. I don't know how to separate it either. If it makes you
Yeah. I mean, I think
yeah.
if I was religious, I feel, and I don't know why I know why I'm hesitant, but I don't know.
Gotcha. No judgment.
Oh, no, well, you're not allowed to. I'm going to judge the shit out of you. No, I'm kidding. But, no, okay, for me, no, I sound like a Real Housewife show. For me, I just feel.
For me, I just talked about my feelings for like 10 minutes. So
well, true. But, I don't, it would be easier if I would give it more of a chance. Yeah. I think it would be easier to discover the answers that you've found if I would go, all right, clean slate, let's get back into this. But my cynicism of the fact that I, just the early books of the Bible, I just can't get past.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I know very intelligent people, and you are like one of the most well-spoken people that I've talked to in a long time.
Take that as a compliment.
No, well, again, low bar, but but still, you're above it. And like the guy I coached wrestling with, he taught physics at Lehigh University. He started Blair Academy's wrestling team, got him in the national powerhouse. He is a very religious man. He's more into Christian Science, but I don't know that he was. I guess he was raised that way.
I really don't know anything about Christian Science.
It's more of they believe. I can't tell you, but it's more that they believe in the power of prayer. They feel like they can and I'm not sure how that relates to the science, but he explained it to me for a little bit. He sent me his gospel talk because I guess at one of the schools you have to have you are available to do it at graduation, and out of courtesy to him, I listened to it, and I enjoyed everything he said. But what I can't get past is the talking snake. The talking snake and the
boat.
And the boat. Yes, I can't. And you're an intelligent guy, and it baffles me that you're an intelligent guy. Tom Hutchinson, who is the guy I'm talking about. I respect them on an intelligence level way above many people.
Yeah.
I just don't get how you can overlook it. I just go, and that part, whatever. But this part.
Well, I think that's the key word is like, do you overlook it? So, and I'm not trying to get into an argument with you.
No, it's just a talk.
Just because you brought it up. Do you like country music?
I grew up on old school country music.
Okay. Have you ever, I don't remember all the I don't remember like the whole context of it. Like there's a line like, makes me want to put a ring on her finger, wrap it around, you know that one?
I do not know that one.
Okay. There's a line in that song, and I use this as an example. I don't remember the name of the song, I don't remember the artist, but the chorus like always ends with like, makes me want to put a ring on her finger. Basically just the whole setup of the song is this guy struggling with the fact like he's very much, like in love with this girl, like spends all of his time with her, but like he always ends up in the same situation, like he hates having to leave at the end of the night and drive home. And so he gets to the point where he's just like, I gotta do something about this. I gotta ask her to marry me. And so, but there's a line in the song where he says, every day, every night, you're all I think about. And so I'll ask people like, if let's say I don't remember this musician's name. I kind of want to.
You go ahead. If you want to Google it, Young Jamie,
So,
Young Ned.
There's an article about the Space Force on my phone.
We're doing that too.
Who is this by? Hang on a second here. Okay. Come on. There we go.
That was actually quick. That was impressive.
Thank you. Type with one thumb too. I get some jokes, and now it's not loading, but yeah, it really wants to stay on this page about the Space Force. I don't know. Okay.
What'd you type in?
What's up?
What'd you type in?
I think the song's just called "Ring on Her Finger," but it's the lyric is makes me want to put a ring on her finger and wrap it around. I've been wrapped around her finger since the first night we went out. Every day. She's every day and every night. She's all I think about. I want that girl beside me when the sun goes down. Makes me want to put a ring on her finger and wrap it around.
If I could spell "put" with my giant fat thumbs.
Actually one of the guys I train with like likes to joke with me because I always type with my left thumb or my right thumb.
You're not a two-thumber?
No, I'm not a two-thumber. I tried it. I really did. My wife can do it. I still just can't make myself.
Fetty Wap? Love the Way lyrics? That's not
No,
right.
that's not it.
I was to put it. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's not it. And I just stole your phone. I'm sorry.
I don't care.
Okay. I do have a point.
You Google faster with one thumb than I do with two.
I do have a point. I'm getting at something here. Okay, Brad Paisley.
That's a newer country thing.
Isn't it?
Yeah, well, I'm talking about Garth Brooks, Brooks and Dunn, stuff like that.
Okay,
That's what I grew up with.
Daniels.
Yeah, well, okay, not that bad, but
yeah, well, I mean but that song was pretty old. But he so Brad Paisley is the point of all this is knowing that his name is Brad Paisley. So would you say so if the objection or if the confusion is that like there's a talking snake, there's an ark, there's a cloud, like there's all this other stuff that happens in Genesis that I struggle with a little bit. Like, can a book that professes to speak, unfettered, inerrant truth actually contain a talking snake? Right.
Right.
Is
Sure. That's part of it. Plus there's certain other things, but yeah.
I got you. But specifically just to scripture, like,
sure.
Like morality and everything, we take put over here for a second. But like the professing faith in a book that says like. And there's a snake, and there was an apple, and there was this whole fiasco, and then they realized they were naked, and it was a problem.
Right.
So the question is, can that book actually teach inerrant truth if it has this thing that like is questionable? So Brad Paisley.
That's a different question, though.
Yeah.
That's a different question.
Yeah.
I believe that the book itself is a good structure.
Okay.
And a good form that if somebody wants to live their life by that, by that general broad stroke of the brush, the things in the book, I don't think it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily believe that it means that there's a God and that Jesus was real and like things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we would, and as I speak as a Catholic, I don't want to try to speak for other communities. Like Christian Scientists might have their own take on it. I know Baptists have a very different.
I'll speak as a Baptist. I was at a wedding once.
All right. Right on. Amen, brother. But there was but speaking as a Catholic, speaking about like our own approach to interpreting it as the largest single faith community on the planet, we believe that it's inerrant. Like I would agree with you that it can teach you a lot of wisdom. There's a lot of stuff you can apply to your life, but we would take it a step further and say it's inerrant. Like it does not contain errors.
Right.
But then there's the question of like, so was there a talking snake? So did the whole world actually flood when there's no actual archaeological evidence for the whole world flooding? Was the world created in 6 days when in actuality, like we know that like the universe is how many billions of years old? And
Sure.
It's also problematic that we say that it was created in 6 days when days are measured by like where the sun is, and the sun was created on like the second or third day period. Like, so like I can get that, but the question then is like, so does it contain errors? So Brad Paisley writes this song where he says, "Every day, every night, you're all I think about." Is Brad Paisley lying?
Probably.
You think so?
Yeah.
You think he's lying?
That he thinks that's all he thinks about? The guy's got to drive to work.
So does he?
Like
he has to drive to work. He probably spends some time thinking about how to play his guitar.
Yes.
But is that a lie? Is that an untruth? Or can you speak truth in a figurative way? Like every day, you're all I think about. Like what he could be saying there, and I mean, I don't know. Brad Paisley might be claiming like this is literally the sole thing that occupies my mind. But he could be claiming you are the metric upon which I make my decisions. I think about my life in terms of you. Every day, every night, I have to make these decisions about like, am I going to go on tour? Am I going to do this? Am I going to write that song? Am I going to make this album? Am I going to go to this event? And I think about you in the context of, like, I think about all this in the context of my relationship with you because you matter to me more than anything else. Like
I see your argument. I see your argument.
Yeah, so I would argue that Genesis specifically is a book that uses a figurative language, similar to Brad Paisley saying you're all I think about, use a figurative language to describe actual events. So it uses a figurative language of like there was a place called Eden, there was two people that were created from the dust and they were placed in Eden and one of them came from the other person's side and there was a snake and the snake gave them an apple and the apple caused some problems and then they physically could not return to this place called Eden. I believe it uses a figurative language to describe an actual event.
Which is what?
God created man. Man was put to the test. Man failed. Man is separated from God because of that failure. But even in that failure, God has not stopped seeking to win us back.
Huh. It's a very interesting way of putting it.
Because Eden doesn't necessarily like Eden doesn't have to denote a specific physical place. Like even and this, a lot of people, like, I'll tell them this and they'll be like, well, that's a very nuanced way to put it. But it's like, but this is how they've interpreted it since the study of Scripture was an actual thing. Like we talk about like the senses of Scripture, and even like if you go and read the Divine Comedy, like Dante, he wrote Dante's Inferno, but he also wrote Purgatory. He describes Purgatory as like this giant mountain in the middle of the ocean, and then at the top of this mountain, you have to walk through this wall of fire, and when you get to the other side of the wall of fire, there's Eden. You're back in the Garden of Eden. But it's because Eden, as
but you're burnt to shit.
Right.
It's gonna suck.
Well, but you're not, because you've been purified. But if you walk through it like without being pure, Dante was also weird. I don't know. but he similarly uses figurative language to describe truth. I wouldn't go so far as to say he's inerrant in the same way Scripture's inerrant, but Eden has traditionally been understood to be this state of unity with God that we can't attain in a fallen world, and that we need His help to get back to. If that makes sense. So.
No, that was the best explanation of my questions.
Country music.
Of that. Well, no, I mean, regardless of that, it was a good way to explain.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, obviously you've answered this question more than today, but
it's kind of what I do for it, so it's
yeah, I was overmatched, but it doesn't change things, but it definitely was like, oh, okay, well that at least makes a little sense.
It's like sparring with somebody, like in a body. You hop in the ring with somebody, you punch them in the face a couple times, they punch you in the gut a couple times, you walk out, you're still friends.
No, absolutely. I don't, and that's the thing about. I mean, people always go, oh, okay, don't talk religion, don't talk politics, don't talk.
Right.
I have no problem with any of that. We don't have to agree.
Well, it's funny because people were like, don't talk religion or politics. And I'm like, those are literally my two favorite things.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not educated much on either of them. But you know what? I'm that guy at the bar that'll be like, oh, I saw this the other day. This is exactly what's happening. And then you'll tell me, well, no, actually, I did some research and this was happening. Then the next time I go to that bar, I'll be like, that guy told me that this is what's happening and I believe him. Like, I'm very influential.
Well, it's funny because like when I was in Alaska the first time, there was this one guy I sat down next to, and he because he was a fisherman and he had just gotten off of the seas and he was going home, and so we're sitting at the bar, and he's like, yeah, you know, what do you do when you're not here? And I was like, well, I'm in school to be a youth minister, and he's like, a minister, all right. People always, and this is the funny thing, is when they ask that, they always seem to forget the youth part,
right?
And they just go to minister, and they think like I'm a Baptist minister, and I jump up and but like, you're a minister. Well, what about this? Well, what about this? Well, what about this? And so I'm just kind of having I just see this conversation, but like, sure. I see whole body language changing, and then he'll be like, yeah, but you know what, man, like, we're in a bar, you know, don't talk religion or politics in a bar, like, we're good. But also this other thing that I was thinking about. And so we're going back and forth, and he's like, yeah, but man, you know, bar etiquette, we don't talk religion, and it's just like, I don't know how, but just like, I always, like, it's like, there's like a radar, like people are like, oh, this guy, here, let's talk. But it's like, so it's not the first time I've had that conversation, but it's also like the conversation I always seem to end up having with someone.
No, I mean, I love it. And I love the fact that we can sit here on, obviously not just literally, but on two separate sides of the discussion, and it's fine. Yeah. That's what people, I think, we talked about society and the cops and things like that. Mm-hmm. I think in general, if people just calm the hell down and talk, you don't have to be on the same page.
Well, and it's interesting because it's like we almost form like tribes where, like, you know, we fight people for the sake of, you know, continuing to fight people. And like, I mean, I even just look at like this whole debate about like, you know, immigration reform and everything that's happening, which is a whole other can of worms that we don't need to get into. But the, like, you know, there's this debate happening, like, you know, and I'm not gonna pretend that like the Senate Republicans are like these innocent martyrs for you know, civility, but like, you know, like Ted Cruz proposes this bill that the Senate Democrats have been asking him for like, you know, weeks, and they propose it, and then what's the first thing that the Senate Democratic leadership does? They're like,
nope.
no, you're not doing this. And it's like if the first thing you look at is
what team are you on?
What team this person's on, and not like if you can't judge someone's argument on the merits of the argument that they present. Like if we're like when you
it's already over. There's nothing.
There's nowhere to go from there. It's like so. I mean, I don't know. I think we need to kind of recapture the art of just learning how to talk about stuff and be okay. And like I don't know. I think maybe if more people did martial arts, maybe the world would be a little bit better.
Wow, way to bring that right back around to why you're originally here. And that's a perfect place to end. Right. You got a jiu-jitsu class to take right about now, and you're probably late. Are you not? Are you not late? All right. Well, hey, thanks a lot for being on. If I shake your hand and I fall over and you do one of those TV evangelist things, I'm going to be upset with you. Thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
Hey, thank you, brother.
Anything else you want to plug real quick?
I would just say, all the like long religious tangent that we just had aside, if anybody out there is interested in learning martial arts, they can come to the MMA Academy, 1414 Moss Street, Reading. You can come in for a free Muay Thai Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu class and see how you like it.
All right, man. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
I'm just saying, don't get upset.